We want to be the most influential and responsible consulting organization in the world.
For the past 25 years, Deloitte has been dedicated to transforming how international development organizations operate and solve the world's biggest development challenges for a healthier, more resilient, and more prosperous world.
We're invested in these communities, and so we bring all of that to our work with international development organizations and their partners.
We work in this industry to foster sustainable growth, to create positive impact in emerging communities around the world. It's what drives me every day to know that the work I'm doing now helps to cushion that impact for people in the regions where I operate.
Strengthening human capital and workforce equity, protecting critical systems through cybersecurity, advancing inclusive economic growth and governance, strengthening global health, activating AI and technology to drive development, providing innovative solutions for climate, energy, and water.
Helping to accelerate affordable and clean energy in Africa, and also helping to solve unique energy challenges.
Under the Deloitte brand, our worldwide network of independent and locally owned and staffed firms is helping to advance locally led development. What I love is that Deloitte also has its own commitments that are exactly aligned with those of international development organizations.
At Deloitte, we create impact where it matters the most.
Proposal and business development teams are under pressure. Pressure to finish on a deadline. Pressure to generate new funding. Pressure to make sure their proposals lead to a positive impact on the world. In a world defined by pressure, what if you had an AI assistant that supported your entire team? Imagine everyone in your organization coming together on ideas and creating impactful proposals without the burnout of intense deadlines, complex templates, or convoluted lexicon. Letting you go from a blank page to a compelling draft in a matter of hours, not weeks. You can stay mission-focused, letting Grant Assistant do the heavy lifting, helping you and your team write proposals compliant with the USAID Style Guide, incorporating your ideas, your past performance, and your research to create unique and compelling proposals that impress your funder. With Grant Assistant, your team gets the support it needs to work smart and dream big.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Society for International Development U.S. Chapter's 2024 Annual Conference. I'm Katherine Raphaelson, President of SID-US, and it is my pleasure to kick off what I know will be a remarkable day of connecting, sharing, and reflecting. This promises to be SID-US's largest conference ever, and I know I say that every year, but every year we are, in fact, larger. We are expecting well over 1,200 people in person today, and another many, many hundreds of people online. You are coming in from all over the world. In person, we will welcome people from 30 states and 18 countries, and online, of course, you're coming in from everywhere. One of my favorite features of our virtual platform is the map under the Participants tab that shows you where everyone is coming in from. So I hope everyone will take a look at that, including those of you in person. Hope you'll get online later. We have more than 100 speakers, 96 sponsors, 12 in-person breakout panels, 13 virtual breakouts, 3 learning labs, and more than 70 exhibits in our exhibit hall. And SID-US has 7 employees. It takes a village. And our village includes our board, who has been so supportive and helpful and hands-on. And our village includes our workgroup co-chairs, many of whom are here today. And our village includes our sponsors. And I'd like to call out our highest level sponsors. At the gold level, we have American Institutes for Research, ESRI, FHI 360, IFDC, and WSP. At the platinum level, we have Apt Global, Accenture, ACD Ivoca, Cadmus, Chemonics, Counterpart, DAI, DT Global, Oxford Policy Management, RTI, Tech Change, Tetra Tech, and Training Resources Group. And at the diamond level, we have Creative Associates, Deloitte, Grant Assistant, and Opportunity International. So thank you. And thank you really to all of our sponsors, all 96, might even be 97, I think, for making this day as robust as it promises to be. I can't start this important event without acknowledging the painful, divisive, and distressing events taking place in our world. More than ever, we are a world in crisis. And as you may know, the theme of our conference today is World in Crisis, Sparks of Hope. Today, I hope we can focus on hope and solutions. Max on our team asked ChatGPT for some inspiration for social media posts about our conference. And here's what he got. Buckle up and brace yourselves for the most exhilarating, pulse-pounding, and awe-inspiring event of the millennium. I am absolutely bursting with excitement to attend the annual spectacle, World in Crisis Sparks of Hope Conference, where the brilliance of hope will illuminate the darkest corners of our world. In a world besieged by tempestuous storms, it's time to harness the power of optimism and illuminate the path forward with the radiant glow of hope. This conference isn't just any ordinary gathering, it's a celestial celebration of resilience, compassion, and the boundless potential of the human spirit. It went on and on, talking about reveling in enlightening conversations, a cosmic convergence of brilliance, where minds collide, ideas flourish, and dreams take flight. And it's a bit over the top, but it does capture what we are trying to do. I'm not sure I can promise quite that level of hope, but we'll try. Our learning labs this year will offer resources and skills building for resilience and self-care. And we asked all our speakers to try to incorporate a sense of hope in our many sessions throughout the day. So while our topics are somber and the world's challenges are overwhelming, we hope you will come away from today feeling inspired. I have to share just one more little bit from ChatGPT's description of our conference. Prepare to be swept off your feet by a dazzling array of awe-inspiring speakers, whose stories will leave you breathless, your hearts aflutter, and your spirit soaring to unimaginable heights. From visionary leaders to unsung heroes, each speaker will ignite the flames of hope within you, igniting a fervent desire to spark change and transform our world for the better. So, I'm sure you want to get on with the show and hear from our dazzling array. So I'll hand off the podium to one of the pillars of SID-US's community, someone who has been a tremendous resource to me and to the tiny SID-US team, and who is in his own right a visionary leader. Here to sweep you off your feet, SID-US's Board Chair and Chief Strategy Officer for International Development at Deloitte, Wade Warren.
What an absolutely terrifying introduction. So hello and welcome to you all. I mean, wow. When Katherine first floated the idea of holding this conference on a Friday, I thought to myself, well, that's not a very good idea. I had a vision of this giant room being, 1/4 filled. So what a fool I was. We have the biggest crowd we've ever had, as Katherine just said, and I'm very happy to have you all here. I'm going to be playing a more substantive role later at the end of the conference in the closing plenary. So I have just a few easy things to do this morning. First, to thank you, Katherine. You are a marvel. You're just tireless. You're always positive. I don't know how you do it. None of this would be possible without you, so we all owe you a huge debt. And you're always talking, and so am I, about how small the staff is, and I think they deserve to be recognized. So, yeah, Julie, Pebbles, Malavika, Noah, Dan, and Max, you guys are amazing. I'm not sure where you are. You're running around making sure that things are in order, but we really, really appreciate you. Second, Katherine acknowledged the board. I want to acknowledge them as well. We have a great, great board. An organization like SID would not be able to do what it does if it didn't have a real working board. The board members bring their time, their creativity, the resources of their organizations to everything that SID does, and that's what makes the organization as successful as it is. So most of the board members are here. If you all could stand and be recognized, I would appreciate it. Thank you all. I'm ending my fourth year as chair of the SID board, and I wanted to give you just a very quick update on one important aspect of our organization, which is our membership. 2 years ago, we made a decision that we wanted to significantly increase our membership and also expand our membership beyond the Washington metropolitan area. So I'm happy to report that in the last 2 years, we've had a 47% growth in our institutional members and an 80% growth in our individual members. So any of you who are here, who are new to SID, you are especially welcome. We're delighted that you were able to make it. And then also, more than half of our new members come from outside the Washington metropolitan area, and 40% of our overall membership is now outside Washington, based elsewhere. So I think that those statistics highlight the changing face of the international development community, and events like this conference, which is held live, of course, but is also live streamed, helps us to remain the global town square for international development. And then finally, it is my honor to introduce Gloria Steele. Gloria and I have known each other for more years than I care to admit. We both grew up in USAID. She was there longer than I was, but we worked many decades together at USAID. We both held multiple positions in the agency, including serving as acting administrator. After retiring from USAID, Gloria worked as the chief operating officer for CARE, and she's currently the chair of the board of DevelopMetrics. Gloria is a force of nature. She's the chair of this year's conference committee. Most of what you see today is due to her expertise. Those of us who have worked with her appreciate her for her keen intellect and her tireless work ethic. So, Gloria, thank you.
Thank you, Wade. I always start with pulling down the microphone to reach my height. But thank you. Katherine, I did not use ChatGPT, so my words will not be as fantastic as yours. But I do want to thank Wade. Thank you for the kind words. And yes, we have worked for a very long time together. And I do want to take this opportunity to thank the members of the Planning Committee. They took time off every Friday, despite their busy schedule since January, planning this event to make sure that it's relevant, meaningful, and worthwhile for all of you to participate in. So thank you so much. And I do want to name the members of the Planning Committee, and alphabetically, start with Roger Ford, Bobby Jefferson, Mark Johnson, Jay Knott, Rose McGovern, Sylvia McGrath. I don't know, I haven't seen Sylvia. Carolyn Quesada, Rula wrote. I worked very closely with Rula on the lunch event today, so watch out for that. Mike Shanley, Ann Simmons-Benton, and Kathy Stroker. To all of you, thank you so much for taking time off to think about what we're going to do this day for the rest of today. It was a lot of very fruitful, enjoyable discussion with all of you. And of course, a million thanks to Katherine and her team for helping us put the dots together. This year's conference theme, World in Crisis, Spark of Hope, came very quickly to the Planning Committee. The number and intensity of crisis that the world is grappling with today are increasing and becoming worse. According to the UN, not ChatGPT, progress on more than half of the Sustainable Development Goal targets has been slow, insufficient, and weak. And on more than 30% of the targets, progress has stalled or reversed. And this is more painfully clear in efforts to reduce poverty. The rate of poverty was going down over the last 3 decades until pandemic interrupted, and now for the first time in a generation, the rate of extreme poverty has gone up. So it has not only stalled, it has reversed. And on food security, and we're going to have a panel on food security today, the 2024 Global Report on Food Crisis notes that over the last 5 years, global hunger has been increasing. And last year, more than 280 million people in 59 countries and territories faced acute hunger. And that's really bad, considering all the effort that has gone into improving food security of the countries where we work. And also last year, staggering 110 million people were displaced by conflict, human rights violations, and extreme weather events. 35 million of these are refugees, and it's the highest number ever recorded in terms of human displacement and refugees. I could go on and depress all of you, but I will not do that. Instead, I would like to ask each of you to reflect on the tremendous positive transformation that has happened over the last few decades. Digital transformation, computerization, AI, etc., all of which were possible because of knowledge, technology, resources, and the commitment to invest in change. So this gives us all hope that we can reverse the current trend. Change is possible and necessary. And we all have a role to play in this for this to happen. Hopefully, all of today's events will spark optimism in each of us for positive change. And now, to kick off the first star of our show, it is my great pleasure to introduce Ambassador Mark Green. Ambassador Green currently serves as President and CEO of the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars, an institution chartered by the US Congress to strengthen the relationship between the world of learning and the world of public affairs. Ambassador Green was the administrator of the US Agency for International Development, or USAID, from 2017 to 2020. At USAID, and I know there are a number of people here from USAID, he is fondly remembered for his integrity, for his empowerment of staff, and for his vision of a world where resources are deployed to help and capacitate countries and their people to become self-reliant and truly lead their own development. He was an equally distinguished diplomat. He served as U.S. Ambassador to Tanzania from 2007 to 2009, and he served 4 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives, where he represented Wisconsin's 8th District, a role which significantly helped USAID in its relationship with Congress. Ambassador Green's other distinguished leadership positions include serving as the president and CEO of the International Republican Institute and as executive director of the McCain Institute. He has been honored for his many outstanding work by many institutions, including the Republic of Tanzania and Colombia, and institutions such as the Scowcroft Institute at Texas A&M and Georgetown University. And now, please join me in warmly welcoming Ambassador Green.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be with all of you here today. It's like old times for me. I'm following Wade Warren. Bill Steiger and I are quietly fist-thumping our Green Bay Packers, causing Eddie Acevedo to roll his eyes. And now I find myself at the mercy of Gloria Steele. It's just like old days. Look, thank you to all of you for allowing me this moment to share a few thoughts with you. I am thrilled to be here because I care deeply about the issues you care about. Most importantly, I want to salute all of you for the work that you're doing. These are challenging times, but the work that all of you do each and every day in lifting lives and building communities, it's essential in the world we find ourselves in. So I'd like to begin this morning with a little story. So in early 2018, I'd been administrator for only about 6 months. I had the opportunity to travel with a delegation to Burma. And during that trip, I had the chance to go to a small Rohingya camp in central Rakhine State. In fact, I believe I was the only senior U.S. official to be able to visit. It was essentially a prison camp. It was encircled with barbed wire. There were armed guards all around, patrolling inside and out. And I remember coming across a young Rohingya father. And he said he had a question for me. He told me he had already been living there for several years. In fact, all of his kids were born in that camp. He wasn't allowed to leave without prior written permission, which he never got. The camp had a clinic that few doctors or nurses ever visited, and there was never enough medicine. There was an outdoor classroom with no real teachers or textbooks. He had no way to earn money. And he said that the only food he had is what we gave him. He looked me in the eye and he said, "My question is, what do I tell my son?" I had no answer. I'm here this morning because I believe that our job, all of us, you, me, all of us, we have to answer that father's question. When the UN Refugees Agency releases its global report later this year, it will likely project that there are 130 million displaced people in the world. Over half of them are women and girls. Roughly 40% are children. In fact, each and every year, nearly 400,000 children are born as refugees. And of course, the number of IDPs, internally displaced, is much higher. It's not just the numbers that are unprecedented, it's the forces that are driving them. As the IMF's Kristalina Georgieva says, we are living in increasingly shock-prone times. We're seeing weather extremes and climate unpredictability that is fueling new conflicts over precious resources, clean water, arable land, critical minerals. It's also testing our infrastructure, and it's disrupting economic growth. What's even more pernicious are the man-made regime-driven forces that are sending people in motion. tyrants and their followers who are purposefully driving families from their homes and from their communities. Some of these leaders have actually weaponized human beings, the displaced. And they've made them tools in their hybrid war. Daniel Ortega has partnered with human traffickers to make Nicaragua a springboard for migration, sending Africans and Asians and others north towards the border. That's evil. Vladimir Putin is not only pushing Ukrainians to Moldova and Poland, but he's amassing Syrians and Yemenis and others along the border with Finland. He's threatening to punish Finland for daring to oppose his war. None of these dark forces is going away. Not the struggles over resources, not the tyrants, nor their wars. And the numbers tell us that the displaced are remaining displaced for longer and longer periods of time. So the question, I think, for us is pretty simple. Someday, God willing, when the fences come down and the gate swings open, pick your imagery, how will they not be vulnerable to the worst kinds of exploitative forces? We have to answer that Father's question. Humanitarian assistance is a response, an immediate response. It's not an answer, at least not a compassionate answer. I think our job is to dust off our development tools, adapt them, reshape them, re-energize them for this generational struggle. 130 million people are not where they were and not where they're going to be. And so our health, education, food security programs, they have to move with them. Every dollar of humanitarian assistance must be reinforced with threads of development and resilience to help the displaced communities withstand future shocks. Today's technology, frugal technology, creates boundless opportunities for all of us to do just that. Our tools need to be people-centered in ways that preserve human dignity and reinforce human choice. Cash assistance, smart cards, mobile phones. A few years ago, I had a chance to visit a refugee processing center in Serbia. And I remember walking through the center and seeing all of these families sort of amassed against a corner. And I thought, okay, what's this about? And I went there and expected to see food being handed out or, classroom lessons taking place. And of course, they were recharging their cell phones. Sometimes our development and foreign assistance debates conjure up my worst nightmares from math class. We're caught up in numbers and we're ruled by percentages and we're arguing over how we slice up that pie. And we posture over which agency and which acronym should lead the work. Our focus must be on people like never before, preparing them for the future, a future that they drive, a future that they are able to create, regardless of where circumstances find them, whether it's in a camp or in the neighborhood. And for the communities and countries that are serving compassionately as hosts, we have to do more to help reinforce their resilience as well. Countries like Colombia and Jordan and Moldova, they have taken heroic steps to bring refugees out of the shadows and to better integrate them into the country's economy. We should absolutely help them in that effort, job training, capacity building, and more. The future of development won't be about numbers or wonky terms or individual programs. It'll be about humanity and compassionate communities harnessing idealism and innovation. It'll be about helping every country, every community, more importantly, every person to be self-reliant. And that's the answer that we have to give that poor father. Let me close with another quick story. In the very first trip that I took overseas at USAID, I visited Sudan, South Sudan, Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, I went to the Somali region, which had had drought for 5-6 years in a row. And I did a food distribution with our friend Governor Beasley of the World Food Program. And I remember walking through and watching the sacks of grain being handed out. And in another area, the families that had received the grain were sitting and resting for a moment before they took them back home. And as I was walking through, a young Ethiopian mother stopped me. And she said that she had a question. She said to me that she deeply appreciated the food assistance. She said, look, we need it. Question she asked is, can you help me with irrigation so I never have to do this again? That question, the father's question, the mother's question, that's the question each and every one of us here today, we have to answer. If we don't, the crises of today will become the crises of tomorrow. We're not compassionate if we aren't answering those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, wow.
It's easy in the cheap seats.
I remember when we went to Rakhine to visit the Rohingya, and then to Cox's Bazar to visit them, the refugees in Cox's Bazar. I remember the sadness and the desperation in your eyes, and I've never actually seen that anywhere and from anyone. And so always bring me back to that time.
I'll say this, when all of us here in the field in which we work, we see tough things.
Yeah.
But the level of despair that I saw there, that I was not entirely prepared for. Despair is the killer of humanity, right? And so it rattled me a lot, and obviously the work that all of us did, hopefully in long-term response, matters. We're not there, but it matters.
I do remember you kept pushing me to figure out a way to bring education to the displaced people in Rohingya in Rakhine, and to the Rohingya refugees in Cox's Bazar, and it was just not possible. And I remember your frustration, and I just couldn't make it happen. And I still have not been able to, and I'm really sorry about that. And your message today about the importance of longer-term development reminds me of that conversation that we had. And because of the increased number and duration of crisis that we're facing today, the US government has increased significantly the funding for humanitarian assistance. In fact, it did increase. It was only one of the few in the foreign aid budget that increased. And unfortunately, development assistance went down, global health went down. And I wanted to get your reflections on this, given what you just said, and given that they really have different objectives. What we do for humanitarian assistance under a humanitarian assistance program is really different. The goals are different under development. And so I wanted to get your, pull the string some more on the perspective that you shared earlier.
I think there are a few takeaways from what we've seen in budgets and in our work. America, as all of you know, is far and away the largest humanitarian donor. I'm proud of that as an American. I'm not arguing that we do less in humanitarian assistance. I am arguing forcefully other countries need to do more. There are a lot of countries that quite simply are not stepping up to the plate, and it makes me angry. So that's one takeaway. Secondly, I think sometimes we are so understandably moved by the immediate, that we're not thinking dispassionately about the future. As you know, I started off my career, I never planned it that way, my career in foreign policy and development as a teacher in Africa and Kenya. And I always tell people I was so moved by the fact that my students never, not one student, ever asked me for money. They might ask for extra lessons, they might ask for help with textbooks, and it really drove home to me that all around the world, people want the same thing, right? They want a chance to shape their future. They want a chance to raise a family and for things to be better. And so if we aren't in our approach to foreign assistance and foreign policy, if we aren't finding ways to help people, particularly young people, and Africa is the youngest continent, as you know, if we aren't looking at that and looking for ways to help them see a future, we're letting them down and we're letting ourselves down. So I believe in it very strongly. And again, these are tough choices, and I'm in the cheap seats. I'm not responsible, so it's easy for me to say, but I think it's a mistake to under-resource our development programs. We have to be compassionate. We have to be able to build the future, and we have to find ways of taking on these challenges. Otherwise, this is going to be in perpetuity, and it's not sustainable. It is not sustainable. So, yeah, I'm a big believer in the development. Also, final piece to it is I mentioned, it isn't always a choice. One of the things that I'm proud of what so many at USAID have really done, we started in our days, is looking to build resilience in those humanitarian programs. So yes, we are in fact providing humanitarian assistance. I think it's a moral obligation that we have, but at the same time we're building capacity and we're sharing technologies and we're sharing approaches to withstand future shocks so that we can answer that Ethiopian mother. Otherwise, if we're simply handing out food, again, that's fine for today, but it's not an answer. And it's not what we believe in. We believe in a hand up, and that is what I think we have to focus on.
That's a good segue to my next question. Many USAID administrators, and I worked for USAID for 40 years, so I've been through many of them. Many USAID administrators set as their goal poverty elimination. Not a bad goal, except that you wonder how we can eliminate poverty for them. And others even focused even more narrowly on extreme poverty, which is what you've been talking about. However, you chose a different North Star. Really took me by surprise, and when I think about it, to me at least it made a lot of sense, which is accompanying countries on their journeys to self-reliance, helping countries to become self-reliant. And I just, never asked you before, it made sense, but I wanted to find out what made you think of setting as the North Star for our country missions, working with countries to become self-reliant, and do you think that this is still relevant today? When you look at all the CDCSs, the country strategies of USAID missions, you will see that every single one of them adopted that, even after you left. And their strategy, you will see the word self-reliant, helping countries become self-reliant. Those strategies will end either this year, some of them were 4-year strategies, some were 5-year strategies. So some will end this year and others will end next year. But, share with us here, because I think it is really important for you to share with people who are doing development, and future and current development practitioners and leaders, what your thinking was and whether you think it continues to be relevant past 2025.
Last part of that first, I hope so. Look, those of you who know me well know I tell endless stories about it, but my year as a teacher in Kenya was life-altering, right? Because I was in a village where we didn't have proper running water. I didn't have a telephone. We didn't have electricity in our house, anything like that. But it also brought home to me the universality of the human spirit and how much people want the same things all around the world. And so it's personal to me. This is the way I look at the world, and that's what I was able to bring. I think back, the first speech that I gave at USAID, it was titled the 14th Street speech, because as I walked in, I said, look, the purpose of all foreign assistance has to be ending its need to exist. And, at first people were rattled, then they paused for 30 seconds. They said, oh yeah, that's actually why we're here. That's what we believe in, and I still do. I think that, I want to take on poverty, but I want to help other countries take on that poverty, right? I want to help them be self-reliant. And for me, self-reliance means in charge, in control, shaping their own future, shaping their destiny, empowering responsive governance to be able to take these things on. I think sometimes we don't mean to, but we come across a little patronizing. I think we sometimes treat communities as though they're hopeless and helpless. Mm-hmm. And we don't mean to. I just think that's the way it comes off, because, we don't listen, and we don't do a very good job of training and capacity building in ways that they guide their future. Can't want it more than they do. We all know that's an adage of good development. So I just always have looked at the world like that. When I think about development, I always see those kids in my class, always. It's ingrained in me and always will.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I can see the sincerity in your decision to lead USAID to helping countries help themselves. And it does make a lot of sense. We can't want it more than they do, but we need to capacitate them and understand why it's needed. Going back to crisis, I hope I still have time, Katherine. Going back to crisis, we talked about increasing number and intensity. And a lot of literature talk about, the reason for this are the 3 C's: COVID, conflict, and climate change. And, I was thinking about it and wondered what your reflections are, because others say there is a deeper problem than, what caused COVID to happen, or climate, or the conflicts even. I wanted to see if you could share your reflections about this. Are there deeper issues that we need to be focusing on as we work on development, on helping countries to become self-reliant?
Well, obviously, there's no one-size-fits-all, and the challenges in each part of the world vary in how they appear. So you'll remember one of the things I used to do to try to irritate people at USAID as they walked around, I would say, just so we're clear, we don't do development here in the building. We fund it. Development's out there. And so I think it's turning to our wonderful mission directors and dedicated field staff and professionals, and it's working with our partners and stakeholders, listening, trying to understand what's going on as we develop the metrics that are now in roadmaps. They're independent metrics, and they're aimed at commitment and capacity. So looking to see, we don't have all the answers, but trying to use metrics to help us understand where sound investments will help build the capacity of governments to take things on. But also, and I think this is equally important, looking at their commitments. Do they have skin in the game? There's not enough money to go around. And so if our partners are not willing to undertake reforms, if our partners are not willing to put their own money in the process, I got other places I can spend the money. Given a choice between countries that are in a difficult place, that have deep poverty, longstanding generational poverty, but are trying to do the right thing, undertaking reforms, and those that just count on our largesse because they think they're entitled to it, for me, the choice is real easy. I will go to bat every single day for those leaders who are making the tough choices or willing to do those things. Otherwise, again, there's not enough money to go around. You know, America is the greatest country on the face of the earth. We lead the world. We lead the free world. We don't have all the answers, and we don't have all the money. So we look for places to make a difference, and we also look and realize that where we find good partners who are willing to do those tough things, and we help them to rise, that sends a very clear message around the world. And to me, that's how we have to do it. Taking the money that we have and sort of doling it out equally to all the countries, that's never going to work. We're never going to make a difference in places. Finding the places, the opportunities, the partners, and doubling down and going full in. That to me is special. And when we do that, all of you, there is nothing that we can't conquer. There is no condition that we can't respond to. There is no challenge that we can't meet. Again, I believe in what you guys do very, very much. Your work has never been more important, more needed. This is a moment. It is a crossroads moment for us.
I want to follow up on that, if I may ask one question.
I told you we were at mercy.
Katherine said, let's hope that all the sessions today leave us with sparks of hope. And I wanted to build upon what you said last, which is we have a very big audience, 1,200 in person coming, and then others watching virtually. Based on your deep experience in development and humanitarian assistance, what advice can you give us in terms of sparking hope and knowing that things can be different, things will change? What do we need to do?
You know, I don't think it's complicated or we have to go terribly far. Every single place I look at in the world, there are sparks of innovation and creativity and dedication and energy. They inspire me. I mean, I look at young people and the innovations they come up with blow me away. All kinds of things. And so that's where I see it. It's not grand theories. It's not, you know, splitting up the pie. It's not the acronyms. It's not we get all on our high horse and have these fights back here in DC. It's finding those leaders, that inspiration, and embracing it and doing everything that we can to lift it up. That's where the answers are. And, you know, we can play a role in elevating and investing in them. And that's where I get my inspiration and hope.
Thank you so much. And that leaves us with
you.
Empowerment. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
It's a long walk from there. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Ambassador Green, and thank you for ending, giving us some hope going into this day. I know that you are all itching to go see our exhibit hall, attend the breakouts, both virtually and in person, and connect with one another. But I want to tell you a little about the day first so you can take full advantage. I forgot to bring my name tag up to show you. For those in person, I hope you notice there is a QR code on the back of your name tag, a little overview of your agenda and a QR code which you can scan to see the full agenda for the day, floor plans, a link to the conference platform, and a lot more. So do scan that. There also are signs around with QR codes too, but it's right there on your name tag. For those of you online, it's really easy. There's an agenda tab. So check out the day. There are a lot of things happening. Quick overview, we have virtual breakouts starting in just a few minutes at 10. So those of you online can go there right after I finish here. These are also going to be shown in virtual viewing rooms upstairs here for anybody who would like to go see them. And then in person, our exhibit hall opens at 10, which is on this level. So you will be guided out of here, not the way you came in to get to the exhibit hall. There are booths and tables that wind all around. So I really urge you to follow signs and make sure you get to all of them. And beyond the exhibit hall are breakout rooms where we will have in-person breakouts starting at 11. And there will be 4 concurrent ones. There will also be 3 concurrent breakouts that way, and there will also be on the other side of this room that way, a learning lab. And then we will reconvene in here at 12 for lunch. Our lunch is called Defending the Defenders in the Year of Election, and it should be super interesting. But I also forgot to mention we'll have lots and lots of networking throughout the exhibit hall, coffee break, facilitated networking groups will take place upstairs where breakfast was for people who want to focus in on certain topics. It's all on your agenda. And we also have an all-day networking lounge sponsored by Bow Systems and StoneX that's off of one of the exhibit halls down near the breakout sessions, so be sure to stop by there anytime during the day. And that is what we have for you. I just want to go back quickly to the village I mentioned earlier. I think that our community around you today, all of this community, is rich with wisdom, resources, innovation, compassion, and more. And I did not get that from ChatGPT. I made that up myself. And so I hope you'll all take advantage of this community, whether you're here at the Hilton or virtual on the platform. We very intentionally built many ways to engage with one another into both our virtual and in-person programs. So on virtually, there are discussion boards. Check those out, participate. We'll have virtual networking at the end of the day after our closing plenary. There was virtual networking this morning before everything started. You can chat within each virtual session in the breakouts and the plenaries. You can comment. You can ask questions, you can introduce yourselves. Please do that. You can poke around and connect with other people. Go to the map I mentioned, find someone who's from where you are from. In person, we'll have coffee breaks, as I mentioned, the Bow Systems and StoneX Lounge and the facilitated networking and a reception at the end of the day. And I want to challenge everyone here in person and online to meet one new person today and then email me and tell me about who you met. And I expect to get 1,000 emails by tomorrow. But before you rush to do that, I would like you just to watch for 3 minutes the first of our 3 Lightning Talk winners. This video is called Bridging the Gap to Reach Communities in Northern Côte d'Ivoire and was created by Mia Kuda from Equal Access International.
Since 2020, Côte d'Ivoire has been thrust to the forefront of a growing crisis as extremist groups intensify attacks along its northern border, echoing the escalating situation in neighboring Sahel countries. Frequent roadside checkpoint stops by police are more than a frustrating aspect of everyday life in the north. Such stops often lead to government mistrust and risk fueling hostilities that violent extremists could exploit. Without proper identification documents for yourself or your vehicle, you are forced to pay a fine and are regularly exposed to racketeering. As one local teacher said, "Because I was afraid of being stopped, I never went out. My routine was school, home, market. I didn't go anywhere else because I didn't have the documents I needed." For many people, obtaining these documents was nearly impossible. It would often take over a day to get to the nearest location offering these services. One young man from the small village of Fanfala unsuccessfully traveled over 130 kilometers 3 different times before getting discouraged and giving up. To address this problem, the Resilience for Peace project started the Mobile One-Stop Clinic, or Guichet Unique Mobile, the GUM, as a way to bring these necessary but inaccessible services to northern border communities. In the past 2 years, thousands of community members have obtained vehicle registrations, license plates, insurance, and even national identification cards. With the GUM, the young man from Pampala obtained all his documents in under an hour. He said, "I'm running to tell everyone in the village." Thanks to the GUM, over 10,000 provided services are enabling community members to move freely without fears of fines or checkpoint disputes, and are reducing tensions between security forces and community members. With their new ID cards, individuals can now register their children for school and vote in local elections, improving overall relations with the government. The GUM also strengthened relations with the Department of Transportation government workers. At first, state employees strictly followed their schedules when processing documents. However, as time went on, they became more invested in the process and went out of their way to accommodate as many participants as possible, even if it meant staying late or extending their working hours. The success of the GUM is a spark of hope, signifying a promising advancement in strengthening community-government relations and promoting stability, which in turn reduces vulnerability to violent extremists. As the teacher put it, it's truly a relief. Because of the GUM, I could get my vehicle registration and license plate. Now I won't be afraid to go out because I know I'm in compliance with the law.